Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And if anybody does join, they can always catch the rebroadcast of the presentation of this town hall via our Facebook page and via our website. We'll also have links on other various social media avenues as well, so you can always refer back to this virtual town hall. So as before we get started, we do want to thank our current 2023 partners. Without them, we can't help the industry grow and face the problems that have existed for many years. And with that being said, before we do get started, I need to remind everybody of the legal stuff, which is basically the antitrust statement. And you've probably heard this before, but during this webinar, we ask that all participants refrain from discussing sensitive competitive business information, including pricing strategies, product capacities, business plans, or any other topics that may or might raise antitrust concerns. This includes both verbal commitments and written messages in the chat or in the Q&A sections. This webinar is a platform for learning and sharing of professional experience and knowledge. We aim to foster a vibrant and healthy conversation that respects the principles of competition and the rule of law. If any conversation begins to border on these prohibitive topics, we will intervene and steer the discussion in a different direction. We thank you in advance for your cooperation and understanding, as it is our goal to ensure that this event serves as a valuable and legally compliant resource to everyone. So with that being said, we do want to preface a few things here regarding the industry and about the industry as a whole, as it pertains to items that have come up within really the last few months with regards to the industry and things that have started to take place over the last several years. We've seen a lot of roll up of or consolidation, if you will, of independent glass shops or multi-state operators that have been bought by bigger companies. So we aim to educate the market as such. So independent glass shops, by the numbers in the USA, by far, independent glass shops, which many of you on this call are, represent the 12,387 approximate shops supporting 31,000 mobile units in all 50 states. So what this means is, by a large margin in the United States, independent glass shops are the #1 go-to for consumers with regards to their repair and replacement needs of automotive glass for their vehicle. Now, a distant second, only supporting 728 shops and 7,100 mobile units, is going to be Safelite, and they too are also in 50 states. But it is quite striking when you look at the number of independent glass shops versus the nearest competitor, which would be Safelite. Now, in terms of volume, hands down still, so we're talking number of invoices done, whether they are cash or insurance, this is still going to be in favor of the independent glass shops, no matter what. Many independent glass shops don't report information or use point of sale systems in their daily capacity. Therefore, it is easy, though, to quantify that just in sheer numbers, 12,387 versus 728. Even when you compare mobile unit to mobile unit, no doubt independent glass shops still reign true. Third in that list is going to be Glass America, with 466 shops supporting roughly 2,200 mobile units. They operate in approximately 30 states. And what's now known as Auto Glass Now, aka Driven Brands, we're looking at 181 shops supporting roughly 700 mobile units, and they are in 41 states. In fifth place is going to be Glass Doctor. They have 270 shops approximately supporting 1,080 mobile units. They operate in 45 states. And kind of rounding out that list is Novus Glass, with approximately 142 shops supporting roughly 426 mobile units. They operate in 43. So it's important as we go through this information today to realize that independent glass shops, those that are on this call, those that support the IGA as members and non-members acting as an independent glass shop or working for an independent glass shop in this industry, you still have the lead in the top spot And that's something we want to make sure that continues, and as an industry as a whole, continues to prosper and lead everybody in the right direction. So today's meeting overview, this was included in your email, but we'll just go over it one more time for the sake of understanding where we're at today for this meeting and just what we're going to discuss. We're going to go over the role of the IGA. We're going to discuss what the IGA does not do. It's kind of important to maybe preface that up front before we get into then what the IGA does do. Because we want to dispel the myths and address the concerns and some of the topics that mainly come up in social media. They rarely come up in person when we have events or when we're attending events, but we want to make sure that we cover both of these respectively and address the bullet points that go along with them. And then looking ahead for the rest of 2023, and ultimately then having an open discussion Q&A. We're going to see what that looks like here at the end. It may be a combination of meeting chat and or the ability for individuals either to come on or you can email questions either way, or we can have a subsequent follow-up call, or maybe something on social media where we have more of an open forum, kind of like an auditorium, if you will. So let's just jump right into it. The most important role that the IGA has is empowering independent glass shops with the access to decades of industry best practices and information that includes. So we are giving, basically, we're entrusted with the information that the association and shops and our partners have provided for over 30 years. And those include things like customer service representative best practices. So we have literature and information on how to train your CSRs, what to look for when you're hiring your CSRs, things that CSRs should be aware of, new trends, understanding forward-facing camera, calibration, recalibration, to understanding the tremendous number of suppliers and information that is available to them, whether their shops are members of the IGA or not. And then we go right into our marketing best practices. A lot of shops struggle in this area. Many shops see the success that others may have because they have fleet accounts or they have lucrative deals set up with maybe insurance agents or others. There's entire markets out there and different marketing capacities that shops can engage on. Some are free and others have small investments to be made. But as we see over time, those that do invest in their marketing increase their visibility, increase the size of their business, and therefore have a larger market share and visibility over their competitive region or market, as we call it. We also go into sales best practices. We offer information on not only your CSRs closing sales, but making sure that your entire organization from soup to nuts is always in a sales mode, meaning when technicians go out, they're in a sales mode, not just repairing or replacing the glass, but also ensuring that there's future sales coming in the pipeline by being professional, leave behinds, engaging with the customer in a positive way. All of those things we have literature and information on and for, and we definitely have that accessible to our members. And then we also go over customer retention best practices, which are basically after the sale, communicating with them, bringing them back in. So we're the biggest role is empowering what we see are shops or just shops in the industry in general doing better at than their competition does. And just a side note to that, many of you probably or may or may not have shopped your competitors, and not just your competitors that are in your local market, but some of those MSOs that we had at the beginning when I showed the slide of number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Depending on one of those organizations, some do very well at customer retention and remarketing. If you just simply visit any one of their websites and, for instance, request a quote, some do much better than others, even to the point where it's almost harassment. Let's say you get an online quote and you leave. The plethora of email that will come right after that is sometimes overwhelming. Others, you'll make the request and never hear anything. So you'll want to, definitely shop your your competitors in that regard and find out exactly where your business is at. So enough for that side note. And then the last thing that we empower our members is on invoicing best practices. And this is absolutely key. Especially in any economy, not just today's economy, but collecting on your invoices is so important, and how you invoice, when you invoice, and when to give terms, when to not give terms. And it's okay to charge late fees. Every other aspect of our lives, whether it's our credit cards or on-term credit or whatever, we're also faced personally in our own lives with late fees. And that shouldn't be any different with your business as well. So we have all of these best practices and guidelines available to our members in the form of documentation. Some are in videos, and others we cover during our events or in live person visitations, which we do a lot of across the country, many times of the year, to coincide either with regional or local trade shows all the way up to national shows. So the role that the IGA continues to also have in the industry is that we're a repository for shops to voluntarily provide information that negatively impacts the industry. That includes items such as network steering, network and billing information, including short payments. And when we also say network here, we're meaning network/insurance. The two go hand in hand, but don't necessarily interface well with one another. And those are topics we can discuss offline. But the big thing is talking about this repository, meaning the shops in the industry, whether they're members or not, to provide the information that we're reviewing here is very important. That would also include any time that you're having payment problems with either late payments or getting information from the insurers or the networks. We're there to help. Same thing with supplier issues. I can't tell you the number of times, and many of you maybe on this call participate in social media forums, and I would say that it's almost daily that at least one complaint about a supplier is lodged on social media, and it doesn't go any further than that. Others might chime in and say, oh, well, give this number, or obviously the other one is, I have no problem. And the thing is, there's a better place to report that is definitely with the IGA and letting us know, because we can consolidate all of these complaints in one place or issues, and then we can address it with the contacts that have connected with us to say, hey, if there's problems that your membership or the industry have, come talk to us, and we can address it head on. And then manufacturer and part issues. So the same thing. Same thing applies. We see it on social media. It's incredible. Several times a day, people will complain about certain manufacturers or brands, fit or quality, or issues just in general with maybe recalibration or things of that nature. The IGA has a repository that if you have time to post these things on social media, clearly you have time to also post these things or report them just to the IGA, where we can collect it and act on your behalf, which kind of leads us then into our next section, which is just the advocation that we have in the industry. So we are providing best practices, including participation activities, where we're furthering the needs of the industries and our members. And we do that through, for example, the Auto Glass Safety Council committee participation. So we act in two committees currently in the Auto Glass Safety Council, which would be the ADAS committee and the standards committee. And we have done so since its inception. So we've always had representation with regards to the association and its members and non-members at large. So what's important here is twice per year, we make the trek in person. We sit down, we participate, we vocalize. again, the reported issues that our members and non-members make to the Independent Glass Association. If we do have time or that capacity, we will take information that we've gleaned from social media. However, it's also a part of fact checking it, because just to read a post on social media doesn't mean that we have the background and the information that would uphold fact checking, if you will. And again, it seems repetitive that I keep saying these things, but it's the importance of it today is understanding that when we are engaging or advocating on behalf of the industry, we need actual data and not just hearsay. The other thing is that we advocate through state legislative and protective issues. So this is where we are invited or we make ourselves available when new state legislation is being considered, and local glass shops to that jurisdiction, it may be a county or a state, are actively involved, and we're asked to come in and provide additional assistance information. So we do that. And the same thing is with protective issues. So when there is something possibly that will be negatively impacting a market or an area and shops are involved with it, we will get involved, and or if we become aware of something, we will let the industry know, and specifically members and non-members in those areas, that, hey, this is coming up and you need to get involved. And I will emphasize, you need to get involved. You will hear the word you as I continue through this, because it's not a matter of the Independent Glass Association acting in your shoes. It's more of that you operate in that state, in that town, in that city, in that county, and it's more up to you to take action than it is the association. And we also participate as an expert witness or provider of actual industry key data points when it comes to litigation. So in some cases, shops find themselves in a litigation situation, whether directly or indirectly, meaning whether they initiated a lawsuit or a lawsuit was brought against them. And it could be on a plethora of issues, but we do, when we're asked, and if it meets certain criteria, we will get involved, because that only furthers, again, a couple things, the knowledge base of the industry, and it also strengthens our position that there is an association and a mouthpiece on behalf of all the information that we receive in order to provide it during these things. So here's what the IGA does not or cannot do. So while the IGA does serve as a voice for the industry, there are some things that we do not directly do. And it's important that we discuss those things here today, and going forward, we will continue to discuss them. But the first thing is, we cannot act in the capacity of a political lobbyist. And there's a lot of people that are like, hey, this is happening in my state, where's the IGA? And as I kind of prefaced in the last set of slides, is that the IGA, while we are an association for all independents and in all states and jurisdictions in Canada and elsewhere, we don't actively own a glass shop. We don't participate in the repair or replacement of glass, nor do we collect for services in those states or jurisdictions. And at the same time, too, the way our organization is set up from an insurance standpoint. So you do realize, just like your business has insurance and garage keepers insurance and stuff, the association also has insurance. And we're somewhat prohibited in activities and things that we can do with regards to the insurance covenants that we have, not only to protect the association and its longevity, but just from a legal compliance. So while we don't act in the capacity of a political lobbyist, that doesn't mean that on behalf of glass shops, we won't assist them, or we will assist them in making sure that they have access to lobbyists that are favorable to whatever the cause is or the situation is in that jurisdiction. The other thing that the IGA does not do is we cannot manipulate markets or restrict competition. We cannot promote or practice anything with regards to market manipulation. And specifically, we say competition is for everybody. Competition is the cornerstone of free enterprise. It thrives better practices. That doesn't mean that it's without its problems, but certainly healthy competition is something that the IGA supports and will always promote. The other thing the IGA does not do is we don't dictate pricing. Now, we do handle pricing issues in the sense that when there is one side who says that this is some terms that are thrown out there like fair and reasonable, or prevailing pricing, prevailing competitive pricing, things of those nature. That's where we will get involved to say, okay, what do these organizations mean by that? And does it hold up to fact checking and logic and math when it applies to the marketplace that it's being implemented in, or against the group that it is being proposed for them to use. So we will get involved with that for making sure that we have a clear definition of these items, and that going forward, that all competitors and parties in the industry realize that, again, the cornerstone of our democracy is free enterprise. Part of that free enterprise is if you run a business and you run it to the terms of the law, you can charge what you want to charge, period. So no one could ever say to you, hey, Mr. Glass Shop, shame on you for either charging too little or too much. It is entirely up to how you see what your business needs in order to be successful, grow, and thrive, and meet the criteria of what your expectations of the business are. And finally, we don't file lawsuits. Now, some of you may be out there scratching your head going, wait a minute, wasn't the IGA involved with a lawsuit against Safelite many years ago? And the answer to that is yes. And that's one of the reasons why today or after that, we've never filed a lawsuit again. And that information is available on our members site for download. Anybody can go and look at that information. But the short of it is that it's never been the IGA's place or the association's place to bring litigation against anyone. And the reason for that is, again, we're not a glass shop. We don't operate in those areas. We don't collect from anybody with regards to automotive glass repair and replacement services. And as such, a big majority of that lawsuit was thrown out, and rightfully so, because the wrong parties brought the suit and they brought the wrong arguments. So for all of the handouts and whatnot that occurred back then, the fatal flaw was that while there was participation by a shop and by a consumer, it wasn't the IGA's lead to do so. And as we've seen after that, glass shops who have successfully implemented litigation or been in litigation prevail far more often because they bring the litigation. It's direct to their party, and it's not immediately thrown out for something like that. So we're not a lobbyist. We don't manipulate markets. We're for competition, healthy competition. We don't dictate pricing, and we don't file lawsuits. So what the IGA does, first and foremost, industry representation. The IGA serves as the voice of the automotive glass industry, representing the industry of its members and advocating for policies that promote the growth and success of the industry. I'd like to add a footnote to that to say it's not just the members, but all the industry. And we get it. Associations or memberships are a tough thing because of value, and the expectation of value was accelerated by the terms of the internet and just in time. A lot of people figure that if you can get on your soapbox by just picking up your phone and typing some stuff out, and if an association isn't doing what you feel or whatever, maybe we don't go fast enough. But one of the things that we do day in and day out is we serve as the voice and we advocate for you. To the extent that we receive information from members and non-members alike. Now, some of you out there have seen me in the capacity of sponsoring Auto Glass University Lunch and Learns. Some of you have seen me at supplier events. Some of you have seen me maybe around Auto Glass Safety Council meetings or Auto Glass Week, or visiting just in your local market. And it's during that we glean that information, we share that information, and based on what your input is, we're specifically the mouthpiece that brings that back to let the industry know where it's at. Education and training. So, these are cornerstones. Again, going back to that first slide where we talked about providing information that a lot of entrepreneurs, not just in the auto glass industry, but in any business, always strive for. How do I have friendly people that are competent to answer the phones to sell my products and services? How do I market better? How do I make sure that everybody in my organization is always selling? And more specifically, am I collecting my fair amount in a timely manner to ensure that my business's cash flow is always positive? We're also for standards development. So that's why we participate with the Auto Glass Safety Council and others specifically around items like safety, installation, recalibration, data, point of sale. Those are things that, again, are all important and should be important to your operations every day. So we make sure that we are first and foremost getting the latest information and making sure that our members and non-members are educated on anything that has to do with new things coming out or new things in the future, which may positively or negatively impact their businesses. The other thing that the IGA does is we provide a conduit for networking and collaboration. So our members have the capability to connect within our member forums that are in social media. So we have private groups where members can discuss these items with regards to operating their business and how materials that they've learned maybe outside of the IGA, or maybe they've gone to a seminar or something where they do better on their taxes or whatever the case is. Being able to share that information is always supports healthy competition, whether or not you're in North Carolina and the other party is in California, for instance. You're sharing a lot of the same struggles that small businesses or medium-sized businesses have. So being able to share that information in a friendly and safe environment is important, and that's one of the things that the IGA does. And last but not least, we also provide consumer awareness. So educating customers via our website and making sure that our terms are searchable. We also have materials that our members can take away and use in the course of their business, especially during their sales process with their CSRs, and educating the customer. And I think the big thing we hear nowadays and that everybody gets on board with is that some shops will flat out not insist on recalibration, turning the vehicle away while doing a replacement. And while the standards and whatnot allow for that to occur, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what your business should be doing. And that customer awareness is providing the information to say, Mr. or Mrs., this is why you need to do it. Now, a lot of times that is due to issues financially, to some customers that have to pay out of pocket or are looking just to get the glass done. That extra, $350 to $700 could be, make it or break it on their rent or even the car payment they're presenting there. But that's where we educate our customers, like, it's got to be done, but our shop gives you options such as 3 easy payments or 6 easy payments, or here's where you can get that taken care of, or you can borrow the money or get credit, use a credit card, whatever. You want to make sure that you're covering all those bases. We want to make sure the consumers are aware that those safety systems on their vehicle, while voluntary and still in their control, are important not only to their vehicle, but also maybe their resale vehicle, the safety of others. Even if they let somebody else borrow the car, you want to be able to let them know all of that information. So that consumer awareness is key there. Our ongoing challenges. So, during this is you've heard me say and the need for data and things of that nature. But without active industry participation, the IGA is unable to provide the support, advocacy, and direction needed to foster change. So a good example of participation. So we're going to step outside of the Independent Glass Association for a second and even look at grassroots let's say programs or grassroots causes that in the past have asked the industry. So we're talking, this is like one shop or a couple shops saying, hey, we all need to get together and combat something or change something or voice something to a public official. And time again, the same thing occurs. So 8 years ago, some of you may remember this, there was a petition that went out. And it was picked up even by our collision brothers and sisters in their periodicals and magazines and whatnot. And this is, to me, it's not shocking. Some of you on this call today may be shocked by it. But the auto glasses industry national right to fair trade petition got a lot of coverage. It got like 3 months of coverage. Magazines, glass bites, people talked about it everywhere. So mind you, 8 years ago, 462 people supported it. Didn't even meet its 1,000 goal. And this is something that we see time and time again. And it's reflective of the attitude that somebody else needs to change or somebody else will do it. And the reality is nobody else can make change the way you can make change, because you know your situation, you know your level of frustration and anger, you know what the details are. And if you don't share that, don't provide it, and if you're not active, as we can see here, our goals in the industry are never going to be met. So while organizations like the IGA can be here to assist in the gathering and the data collection and being the mouthpiece and providing that conduit and that stage, if you will, to the world, the one thing we can't do is act on your behalf with regards to, for instance, supporting a petition or providing that data that only comes from you, your point of sale, or an affidavit from your customer or whatever it may be. This again squarely falls on the shoulders of you. We have put together at great expense these systems and processes, and we advertise them, and then we're out there on the road to bring this to you to say, please, without this, we can't do anything. And one of those big things is, we've had the Don't Get Steered campaign now going on for, I believe it's 14 years. And this has been a mechanism of the IGA in all of that time where glass shops can come and report certain things. And in that, it's very simple to use and anybody can get on board with it. You're going to log in using your credentials. It's on Glass Part Match, and you are going to make your report. So what is it? A payment issue, a steering issue, a part issue, whatever it is. And you're reporting this very easily. You're just going through, providing the high level detail, and then attaching whatever supporting documentation that you have. But again, this is something that shockingly has been available for 14 years, and to date, in that time frame, we have less than 600 filed complaints or filed issues. And more specifically, if I just look at year to date in 2023, I have 17. And it's not for a lack of the IGA letting members and non-members know that this is available and where to go. We have the videos on our pages. We post these bi-weekly in almost every group that we're allowed to post them in. And we talk about this in person and at shows, and we even demonstrate it. And yet this information still does not get taken care of. And again, we can't do anything without it being reported. And when you do report it, that's when we can do something about it. And when we do get information, so this is a good recent example. This is actually from today, and this is in a situation where we can take this information, and it's good to get this kind of information, because anytime I have a call with a TPA or an insurance company or a meeting, I'm always like, hey, so-and-so, I've got all these issues with, pricing or, short payments or steering. And the first thing is, oh yeah, well, what's the claim number? Or what's the CSR's name? And I'm like, well, I only heard about it. I saw it on a Facebook group, or I saw it somebody talking about it at an event or something. And they're like, well, until you have more information, we can't help you. But I certainly can say ... and in air quotes. They will say, well, we don't do that here. We make sure everything is fair and reasonable. And again, when I have information like this is a piece of paper now with information and a background where I can turn and say, here, you say one thing, but this is the actual facts where I can provide that information. The wrong thing to do is go to social media, and here's a good example from April 27th. And this individual on social media, is calling not only Mr. IGA out, which I guess is me. My name is next to it, so thank you for those who have voted me as Mr. IGA. But all sarcasm aside, if you have time to make posts like this, you have time to officially report and give the background information. And when you've reported it to the IGA, if you still feel you have time and we want to go talk about it somewhere else, go right ahead. But two things: A, calling me out on social media. This isn't me. I didn't answer your phones. I didn't have your customer go through the SGC portal or whatever this may be. And I can only do things in the capacity of when we're notified about it. So, one or two people notify me, do the don't get steered reporting. But all of a sudden, if I have 2 dozen, 3 dozen, it's escalated very quickly and we can handle things. So we're here for that. That's what we do, to the extent that individuals actually provide us information, and go from there. So some things that we're doing in the industry. Many people are asking, also what's the IGA doing? Is the IGA at Auto Glass Week, or are we part of Auto Glass Week? So many of you may know the history of Auto Glass Week, that in reality, Independence Days was our show, which later morphed into Auto Glass Week, where the IGA had material participation. And over time, somehow, through my predecessors and otherwise, the IGA was minimalized, marginalized, and eventually we have no skin in that show anymore. So when you see things that are being made decision-wise for that show, especially the last several years, while we may have had input on it, it somewhat or altogether fell on deaf ears. And really, it's a show that, while we can support it on behalf of anybody who wants to attend it and the Olympics and things of that nature, we don't believe that it reflects the values or the needs of our membership or industry. And that's why we are bringing back the Independence Days. So our first Independence Days, we're bringing it back, will be in Las Vegas, Nevada, November 1st and 2nd. We'll be posting the venue information online here within the next week, not only on how attendees can sign up, but if vendors end up watching this video afterwards, also anybody who wants to be there as a vendor certainly can. But our focus is, while we love our suppliers and our vendors and supporters, our focus is to bring actual material speakers from the industry. We're bringing them in to cover all those subjects that you saw at the beginning of the slide. So CSR training, how do I market? We're actually bringing in people that will give you a takeaway, things that you can actually go back to your business and implement right away. Some of you may start implementing it right while you're in the audience. However, the focus will be the shop getting education, meaning the attendee. We're piggybacking this, so we have nothing official with SEMA, but we just happen to be in Las Vegas the same week that SEMA is. So this is also a good opportunity for auto glass shops to go and attend SEMA around our event. So SEMA happens that entire first week of November. So you have plenty of time. The venue is going to be very close to where you'll be able to get in the Tesla tunnel and go right from our meeting spot right over to the convention center and vice versa, and take it in, see all the other things that you should be adding to your business. So many of you guys out there went from just doing glass repair and replacement, and then ultimately have added recalibration, but there's a lot more that's in there. And not just that, I know some of you may have added tinting and things of that nature, but when you have access to that vehicle, and especially if you have a fixed-based operation, meaning you have bays where customers can come for service, there are so many add-on services that you can provide, and those vendors are at SEMA for you to become engaged with. Plus, it's an excellent opportunity to engage with our brothers and sisters over the collision repair industry, who are suffering a lot of the same things that we do in our industry, and also are looking for relationships in the auto glass industry to supplement or support their business. Because just as consolidation has happened in our industry, it's something that has happened in the collision repair industry over years. And we find national companies that are glass and collision repair. And then in the glass side, we see glass shops that are also tied now to collision repair shops. So even in the playing field and taking that advantage of our independent membership or our independent voice and their independent voice doubles the capacity for all aftermarket automotive care services. So that's something to look forward to, and that information will be posted everywhere to the extent that we can for Las Vegas, Nevada, November 1st and 2nd. The other thing is glass part match. This is free. This is if you don't have to pay anything for it. This is going to give you access to, this is where you would report the information, steering and whatnot. So if you don't want to use any of its features for part matching, VIN, license plate, vehicle information, fine, but just realize that's also where you will need to log in to post that information. So if you don't have your free glass part match account, definitely get hooked up on it. So people always ask me, how affordable is IGA membership? Sometimes I get beat up saying, oh, it's just a money maker. They're just making money over at the IGA. And the reality is sometimes some months it's tight and other months we're okay. And being able to continue to provide these services and whatnot to you. And as you can see here, it is very economical to become an IGA member. Most shops fall in this range of $9.95 to $14.95 per month. And considering everything that the IGA does and provides and gives you access to, including a platform like Glass Part Match, and some of the other things that are in there that assist your business as a non-member or member, it's extraordinary. I can't think of any other thing other than maybe like some of these gym memberships now that are finally affordable, where you pay $10 a month and it's all you can do to go work out and better your health. I look at it the same way. If you don't use your gym membership and you don't participate, then paying that amount of money is something maybe you shouldn't do. But if you truly want to increase the visibility, fix issues in the industry, you've got to get involved and you've got to support the organization. So we've left the URL here at the bottom of the screen. Now, something I'm being told is we're not, some people are not able to see the meeting chat window, and that's something that we thought was opened up in this. And for the attendees, we're not also seeing that you're able to actually come on and speak. So we have a couple things. If anybody does have a question, and we can kind of hang out here for a moment, which would be if you wanted to email a question or make a comment, certainly I would be available to answer that and read it as you send it in. I do apologize for that, changing up this platform. We should have gotten going here a little bit on a test beforehand to make sure, so that's on me. I apologize for that. But if you do have any questions, go ahead, and for those of you that have like my mobile number, text me. If you're on Facebook Messenger, go ahead now. We'll just kind of give it a few minutes. I do appreciate your time. We are coming up with about 8 minutes left. So if anybody is out there and has a question or concern, Gary at iga.org, or if you're on your mobile phone right now and you have Facebook Messenger, I should be on there. I believe it's Gary Hart AZ. You can just go ahead and look me up there. You can also send a message on the IGA page. So we'll just kind of give everybody a few minutes, and if we don't see anything, we can conclude the meeting. Okay, so we do have a question that's out there. The question is, when reporting steering, how are they followed up, and how do we know? So that's a very good question. So once the information is reported, the first thing we do is we review everything that was in there to make sure we have all the information. That would include like the time and dates and attached invoices or correspondence. Then what we do is you'll immediately get an email saying that we've received it, that we're reviewing it. Then the person who reported it will receive another email within 1 to 3 business days, letting them know the next disposition, which is typically we have initiated contact with whomever needs to be contacted, and here's what the next steps will be. So we typically will contact the source of the issue and let them know, that we're advocating on behalf of this glass shop, and here's the information that was presented, whatever it may be. So steering, late payment, short payment, concerns about the whatever it may be, a technician, a web app, a relationship or whatever, and we provide them with the details, and we respectfully ask for their reply as soon as possible. Any and all correspondence that we get back is attached and provided back to the shop, so they know, again, the disposition as it happens. If we don't receive any feedback within 7 to 10 business days after that, we then make a separate file for that where we continue to follow up on it, and eventually we will close it out after 30 days if we don't hear anything. But we then end up with what we call a negative file. So negative files are things where in the member section you can see all of the positive and negative outcomes. We obfuscate the data, or we remove the data that would identify you as the shop or your customer or whatever, but we just say this was against XYZ, and it had to do with possible steering, or it had to do with possible late payment or whatever, and then whether it was successfully done and whatnot, and also the number of days that it took to do that. So it's all information that you can follow, and of course at any time, if you've reported it and you'd like to know what the status is, if we haven't provided it already, you can always reach out to somebody on the staff, and we would be happy to facilitate information on that. And again, if you do have a question, Gary at iga.org or Facebook instant message. And to whoever actually just sent me a text, I did reply to you. Oh, here we go. Okay. Well, we'll let you start typing. In the meantime, we do have another question that came in. What is the best way to promote the IGA in the industry? How can we get them, more attached? And really, this is really a you question. It's to the level of each glass shop and the participation they want to give. Obviously, here today, you've seen a lot of compelling information that says, hey, I should get more involved. If we provide this information, we're doing our part, and then the IGA can go do their part, and together we can ensure that this is working, as a whole unit. And I would say at local events, or when you're down at your supplier, or hopefully some of you have set up maybe bi-monthly meetings with your competitors. There's nothing wrong with calling a competitor up in a marketplace and saying, hey, on a personal level, I'm Gary with XYZ Auto Glass, and I just say maybe we should talk and just compare notes and see how things go. Always be networking and mentioning the IGA when you can, and be proud of the level of participation that you're, the best thing is to brag about it. Hey, I'm providing the IGA with this information, and here's what they've done for me so far. Or, I'm excited about, the direction this is going in, or I've gotten good information, or anytime I've interfaced with the IGA, they always provide knowledge and those things that are there. So the best way is get involved yourself. And once you're involved, that will hopefully become something where you want to get other shops in your area, or maybe not, maybe just on social media on a national level or an international level, saying, please, get involved with it. So, but thank you there for that question. And the other person, they're having issues uploading a picture or something. So I don't think that's going to pan out here. And that would be, yep, a hard no on that. So looks like we are at our time. If you do have any follow-up, please email me after the fact. But thank you for joining us for this town hall. I promise the next one we will have full participation, the ability for audio and chat and to raise hands and ask questions. But if you do have anything, please get in touch with me, Gary at IGA.org. Hit me up on the IGA's phone number or on social media. So with that, thank you for attending today, and we will be chatting soon, I'm sure. Bye.